The phone's speaker crackled like a distant storm, the words slicing through the quiet kitchen air like a knife through flesh. I froze in the doorway, my hand still on the doorknob, the scent of fresh coffee mingling with the metallic tang of betrayal. "He'll never know about the abortion," Sarah's voice echoed, casual as if discussing the weather. "I'm not keeping it, Mom. It's just easier this way." Her mother's response was muffled, a murmur of approval, but it didn't matter. The world tilted, my vision blurring with a rage so hot it burned my throat. I stepped back silently, heart pounding like a war drum, and slipped out the front door before she could hear me. In that moment, everything I thought I knew about us shattered. Love, trust, the future we'd built on whispers and promises. All gone, replaced by a void that screamed for vengeance. I drove aimlessly through the rain-slick streets of Seattle, the wipers thumping rhythmically against the windshield, mimicking the erratic beat of my pulse. The city lights smeared into streaks of neon red and gold, reflecting off puddles that mirrored my fractured soul. How long had she been lying? We'd been together for 5 years, married for 2, talking about starting a family just last month over candlelit dinners where she'd smile and say, "Soon, Mark. It'll be perfect." Perfect. The word tasted like ash now. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened, imagining her face. Those wide blue eyes that had once made me feel invincible, now hiding secrets that could destroy me. Pulling into a dimly lit parking lot behind a forgotten bar, I killed the engine and sat there, the rain drumming on the roof like accusatory fingers. Denial hit first, a desperate wave. Maybe I misheard. Maybe it was about someone else. But no, the context was clear. Our late nights, her sudden stomach bug, the way she'd avoided wine at dinner parties. It was ours. And she'd erased it without a word, confiding in her mother like I was some stranger to be managed. Humiliation burned in my chest, a fire that spread to my limbs, making them tremble. How many times had she looked me in the eye and lied? The thought fueled a resentment so deep it felt like poison seeping into my veins. I stumbled into the bar, the door creaking open to reveal a haze of cigarette smoke and low murmurs. The bartender, a grizzled man with tattoos snaking up his arms, poured me a whiskey without asking. I downed it in one gulp, the burn matching the one inside. "Rough night," he grunted, wiping a glass with a stained rag. "You have no idea," I muttered, staring into the amber liquid. My mind raced through memories. Sarah's laughter echoing in our cozy apartment, the way she'd curl into me during thunderstorms, whispering dreams of a house with a yard, kids running around. Now those dreams felt like mockery. Heartbreak clawed at me, raw and unrelenting, but beneath it, something colder stirred, obsession. I needed to know why. Why hide it? Why not tell me? Was I that disposable? Back home that night I feigned normalcy. Sarah was in the living room, scrolling through her phone. Her hair tied back in that effortless ponytail that used to drive me wild. "Hey babe," she said, glancing up with a smile that now seemed calculated. "You were out late. Everything okay?" "Just needed some air," I replied, forcing a grin as I kissed her forehead. Her skin was warm, familiar, but it repulsed me now. We ate takeout in silence, the TV droning on about some crime drama where the betrayed husband snapped. I watched her out of the corner of my eye, every bite she took feeling like a confirmation of her deceit. In bed, as she slept beside me, her breathing steady and untroubled, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. Fantasies crept in, confronting her, screaming until she broke. But no, that was too easy, too quick. Revenge needed to be surgical, a slow unraveling that mirrored the way she'd gutted me. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the blinds in golden slats, casting shadows that danced like ghosts on the walls. Sarah hummed in the kitchen, brewing coffee, oblivious. I pretended to check emails on my laptop, but really I was digging. Her phone was on the counter, unlocked, a habit from our trusting marriage. I glanced at her texts with her mother, told him I was at yoga. Procedure went fine. Feeling relieved. My stomach churned, guilt flickering briefly. Had I invaded her privacy? But no, this was war now. She'd started it. At work, in my cramped office overlooking the bustling harbor, the ships unloading cargo like indifferent giants, I couldn't focus. Reports blurred on my screen, my boss's emails piling up unanswered. Instead I researched. Clinics, timelines, it all matched. She'd gone 2 weeks ago, right after our anniversary trip to the coast, where we'd made love under the stars and talked about names for our future child. The irony twisted like a blade. Anger surged, hot and blinding, but I channeled it into planning. What would hurt her most? Exposure. Loss. I thought of her career as a rising marketing executive, her pristine social media facade, her tight-knit family who doted on her as the perfect daughter. Doubt crept in during lunch as I picked at a sandwich in the park, pigeons cooing around my feet. Was revenge worth it? What if she had reasons, fear, uncertainty? But then resentment won out. She'd chosen secrecy over us. That night, over dinner, pasta she'd made with that special sauce I loved, I tested the waters. Ever think about kids again? I asked casually, twirling noodles on my fork. She paused, fork midway to her mouth, a flicker of something, guilt, in her eyes. Yeah, someday. Why? Just wondering, I said, smiling. Inside, obsession grew. I'd make her pay, but subtly. Start with small cracks. Over the next weeks, the slow burn began. I withdrew affection gradually, blaming work stress. Tired, babe, I'd say when she reached for me in bed, turning away to hide the cold resolve hardening in my chest. She noticed, her brows furrowing in concern, but I gaslit her gently. You're imagining things. Her mother's calls increased, I overheard snippets. He's distant, Mom. I don't know. But let her squirm. One evening, as rain pattered against the windows like impatient fingers, I planted the first seed. We were on the couch, watching a movie about infidelity. My choice. During a tense scene, I said, "Can't imagine keeping something that big from your partner. That's betrayal, right?" She shifted uncomfortably, her hand tightening on mine. Yeah, total trust breaker. Her voice was steady, but her pulse raced under my thumb. Suspense built in the air between us, thick as fog. Did she suspect? No, not yet. But the moral conflict gnawed at me. Was I becoming the monster? Pushing it aside, I focused on the plan. Revenge wasn't just about pain. It was about justice. I started gathering evidence. Photos of her clinic receipts I'd found buried in her drawer. Screenshots of texts. Not for confrontation yet. Instead, I anonymously emailed her boss a tip about ethical concerns in her recent campaign, linking to fabricated but plausible discrepancies I'd mocked up. Nothing damning, just enough to spark an internal review. At home, she'd come back stressed, venting. Work's a nightmare. Some audit bullshit. I'd nod sympathetically, suppressing a smirk. Heartbreak resurfaced in quiet moments, like when I found an old ultrasound photo from her previous miscarriage, before we met. Had that scarred her? Empathy tugged, but resentment drowned it. She'd robbed me of choice, of grief. Obsession turned to calculation. I'd expose her secret at her family's annual gathering next month. Her perfect image shattered in front of everyone she loved. Fear hit one night as I paced the dark living room, the clock ticking like a countdown. What if she left first? What if revenge backfired? But the fury, that initial shock from the speakerphone, propelled me. I couldn't stop now. Subtle hints escalated. I accidentally left my browser open to abortion support forums, watching her reaction. Pale face, quick close of the tab. Tension simmered, a pot ready to boil. Her calls to her mother grew frantic. Something's off with Mark. Paranoid. I smiled in the shadows. As the family gathering approached, the air in our apartment thickened with unspoken words. Sarah tried bridging the gap, cooking my favorites, initiating intimacy. I reciprocated just enough to keep her hooked, but inside, cold resolve solidified. The betrayal had awakened something primal, a hunter's instinct. Revenge was coming, slow and inevitable. The family estate loomed like a sentinel against the misty Washington hills, its stone facade glowing under strings of fairy lights. Laughter spilled from the open doors as relatives mingled, the scent of roasted turkey and pine mingling with wood smoke from the fireplace. Sarah clung to my arm, her grip tight, as if sensing the storm brewing. "You okay?" she whispered, her breath warm against my ear. "Never better," I replied, my voice laced with hidden venom. Inside, the moral conflict raged. This would destroy her, but hadn't she destroyed me? We entered the grand hall, polished floors reflecting the chandelier's sparkle, cousins and aunts greeting us with hugs that felt like traps. Dinner unfolded in a haze of clinking glasses and forced cheer. Sarah's mother, Evelyn, sat at the head, her sharp eyes scanning the room like a hawk. "So, when are you two giving me grandkids?" she joked, eliciting chuckles. Sarah laughed nervously, squeezing my hand under the table. My pulse thundered, this was the moment. But I held back, savoring the suspense. Instead, I steered conversations to family secrets. "Remember Uncle Ted's affair?" Secrets always come out. Eyes darted, unease rippling. Sarah shot me a puzzled look, but I smiled innocently. After dessert, as guests milled in the living room with cognac in hand, I excused myself to freshen up. In the guest room, heart pounding, I pulled out my phone. The email was drafted, to the entire family list, with attachments, texts, receipts, even a recorded snippet of that speakerphone call I'd secretly captured later for proof. Subject: the truth about Sarah. Fingers hovered over send. Doubt flooded. Was this justice or cruelty? Her face flashed, vulnerable, loving once. But then the words echoed. "He'll never know." Rage won. I hit send. The fallout was cinematic, unfolding in slow motion. Phones buzzed like angry bees. Gasps echoed. Evelyn's face drained of color as she read aloud. "Abortion without telling Mark." Sarah's eyes met mine across the room, widening in horror. "What have you done?" she whispered, voice breaking. Chaos erupted. Relatives murmured, some defending her. Personal choice. Others appalled. Sarah fled to the bathroom, sobs muffled. I stood there, feigning shock. I didn't send that. But the lie was thin. Her mother confronted me, eyes blazing. "You monster." In the car ride home, silence hung heavy, broken only by Sarah's ragged breaths. "Why?" she finally croaked, tears streaming. "You tell me," I said coldly. "Why hide it? Why lie?" She crumpled. I was scared. After the miscarriage, I couldn't go through it again. Not without being sure. Guilt twisted her features, but it was too late. My heart ached, heartbreak resurfacing, but resentment held firm. At home, she packed a bag, words flying like daggers. "You're obsessed, Mark. This isn't love, it's hate." The door slammed, echoing the initial crackle of that phone. Alone, obsession morphed to emptiness. Days blurred. Work ignored, whiskey my companion. Her lawyer called divorce papers. I signed, but victory tasted hollow. Then the twist. A knock at the door weeks later. Evelyn, face etched with regret. "It wasn't yours," she said softly. "Sarah." She cheated. Brief affair at work. The abortion was to hide that. The world spun again. Betrayal doubled. Not just the secret but the paternity. My revenge. Justified but incomplete. She'd suffered, but so had I, blindly. Poetic justice. Her perfect life unraveled, but mine. Shell. I poured another drink, staring at the rain-streaked window. Revenge had its price. Isolation, guilt. But in the quiet, a cold resolve lingered. If she ever returned, I'd be ready. The hunt never truly ends.